They're too far ahead now. And I couldn't get arrested because if you're being a radio presenter, casting directors don't want to know you. And I could not get seen for anything. I really couldn't. I mean, I've got a file that big of rejection letters from everything. Just could not get seen for anything. And it started to change when, towards the end of the radio stuff, I started to put some comedy characters in. I started to write and create comedy characters. I had a German guy called, his name was Conrad Bolivar. He used to go, yoo-hoo! He was very camp, sort of German guy like that, mm-hmm. And he was a big fan of Victor Spinetti. And he used to mount a one-man show all about Victor. And he would tap dance. And it was beautiful. I did him. You had to be there.
Yes, I was there just then.
I did this chap called Jeremiah Fanny of the Fine Fanny Four, Bodmin's finest folk group. Used to be in the trad jazz combo threepenny bit, left the bit to be in the Fine Fanny Four. I used to do him. I used to do an American DJ in the kind of Casey Kasem mold called Bob Goldentown, and I did him. But I also did this taxi driver who was called Keith, and his wife Marion. In those days, he had a very high voice in those days. He was very much a cartoon character. And his wife was having an affair with his best friend Tony while he was driving the cab. And that's where that started, which was eventually going to give me my break, But that's where it all started, in little monologues and little duologue scenes on the radio.
So when did you think, I can't believe this, might be able to make a proper living out of this? I think a lot of comedians feel a bit fraudulent about earning money to be funny.
No, I've never had that. I've always felt it wasn't quite enough. I've always felt there's been an administrative error. I've never had that. And I've never had that thing of, aren't we all lucky to be here? I've never had that.
I think it's because it sounds like it was a long time coming for you.
It was a hell of a long time coming.
So you really had to earn it.
Yeah.
Not easy, then.
I felt, isn't this great? And I felt like coming here today. I sort of felt, great, this is a good thing to be doing. But no, I've never had that thing that a lot of people feel that you just described. Well, we all have the thing of thinking you're going to be found out. Yeah, we all have that thing of someone's going to, hang on, he's not any good. So-and-so's great, but he's Rob Brydon, you live with that.
Yes.
But not the thing of the money side of it. No, I've always felt it was a bit of a slog and hard work.
So you think it's a proper job, don't you, Rob?
Yeah, because I've never done anything else, you see. I've never done that thing of working in an office and getting frustrated. Now, what my version of that was working on the radio. I presented on the Shopping Channel for a year. I presented a movie show for a year, where I remember I went to Morocco to interview Robin Williams and met him very briefly on the set of a film he was making there, and him coming up to me, and he was in the very kind of quiet Robin mode, and they said, and Robin, this is Rob, he's making the documentary. And he went, hi, how are you? And then just walked away, and I thought, oh, God, I don't want you to think I'm a journalist. I want to
like you.
I'm like you, exactly. Yeah. I'm like you, I'm like, oh. And I hated that, I hated that frustration of that area that I was in, which is that kind of journalistic world. So that's my version of sitting in an office. It was always on the fringes of show business. And then after that, it was voiceovers. Then I came to London, I got into voiceovers, and I was doing great at voiceovers, and I was working with whoever were the comic stars of the day. So I did stuff with, like, Neil Morrissey and Martin Clunes, and I did stuff with whoever was around at that era. But it was only as a bloke with his sort of funny voices, he could do all sort of different accents and sort of stuff. A funny voice, and you're very good at timing things and all that sort of thing, But I said, go up, and they would go off and make their TV shows, and I would go off and say, cup of soup, see in store for details. And that was, And then I started to do a bit of stand-up, and it slowly then all started to come together.
Do you still do stand-up?
I do corporates, and I do stand-ups in my corporates, but I don't do an out-and-out, hey, this is me. I mean, I love great stand-ups, but I am quite lazy. No.
I can't believe that, Rob.
No, I am.
I can't believe you're lazy.
No, I am quite a procrastinator. I sort of fight against being a procrastinator. I do fight against just putting things off. When I was at school, I always had a thing of not revising for exams, and I would always believe something would happen on the day. And it did. I failed. And I've had that as a performer. When I first did my Keith Barrett live show, it was at the Ambassadors in London, the West End, right? And I swear to you, it was a 90-minute show. I'd had a run-through of 20 minutes of the first half at a comedy club. I had done none of the second half before I went out in front of, how many did it hold, 400 people, 450 people there? And I was ill. I became ill with it. I had to go and see my stomach went so badly that I did 4 Sundays. And the fourth one, I was in such pain. I went and saw a specialist afterwards and had to change my diet and everything. But I put myself in that ridiculous situation of just thinking, oh, something will happen.
Well, do you think you'd like to sort of test yourself with a bit of danger then? What's going on?
I think I've always had a feeling, oh, I'll be all right, I'll think of something, you know. So
you've got some faith in your brain power then, haven't you? And it serves you well, so maybe you've got reason to have that.
Yeah, but you would get so much more done, right, if you worked and honed the script and then added on top of that all this spur-of-the-moment stuff.
Do you find it better to write with someone else then? Then
yes,
you've got some kind of allegiance.
All my best stuff has been written with someone else. Marion and Jeff was written with Hugo Blick, with Julia Davis on Human Remains. You know, yes, someone who brings stuff out of you that wouldn't otherwise be there.
Whose approval do you seek, Rob?
My wife. I ask my wife what she thinks. I don't know if she is the greatest judge of comedy, but, you know, it's important that the person you love likes what you do.
Yes.
And I suppose, you know, your peers, but I think that becomes less important to you. I think that when I first started doing stuff that got noticed and that had some acclaim, I would look at every review. There's the novelty of being in the paper, because I'd slogged around for a while, and seeing them writing about you. Oh, great. But then you have a few bad ones. And you don't want that as much, and you realise that people don't really pay that much attention to reviews. I don't, you know, because you can't. I mean, if you did live your life carrying on like that, I mean, you'd be the drama of it would be just too much.
Well, and the danger of altering anything because of a review
exactly.
is really poison.
Yes, I think you've got to try and just do your own thing, But at the same time, there's the natural human thing of wanting approval, although I don't think all comedians have that. I think there are some who are just so self-contained. You think of someone like a Chris Morris, who I can't imagine, if anything, seems to be perversely in the other direction. I think there are people to whom it doesn't matter as much, but I'm a bit more, you know, I like to, you know, have somebody go, oh, yeah, that was good.
Well, why do you think we love people who make us laugh so much?
I think it is because it's like a drug. I'm sure it's because when you laugh, you get a good feeling. And we want that feeling. I don't know whether it releases serotonin or that, you know, in your brain, but we all know that when we go... Just doing it now like this, and I'm not laughing. You've said nothing funny, Dawn. I'm getting a good feel. Not ever. The last 5-6 years, come on, it's been a fallow period.
Stop!
But that feeling is I don't mean that. That feeling is a good feeling, and I do think it's as simple as that. I think it's that's why people go and see a stand-up comedian. They're pretty sure he's going to make them laugh. I think it gives you that feeling in a way that a good episode of Inspector Morse doesn't. That gives you something else. But that laughter feeling, it's joy and it's ecstasy and it's elation. And I think that's something that you might compare to a drug.
Yes.
And that's why we like it. That's why we place a really high value, thank God, in our society on it.
Do you think it's an addiction then, comedy, for those who...
Those who watch it or those who do it?
Do it.
Yeah, but you don't get the same thing doing it as you do watching it. Because, you know, when you're in the middle of... You know this, when you're in the middle of a tour, you're doing stuff you don't think it's funny anymore. You must have had that.
No, I'm always completely behind my material.
I'm not. No, I've done short tours. I've done a 19-date tour and a 51-date tour. and you go through things, don't you, where you like the material, then you get over familiar with it, then